the idea of the National Guard is to defend the country. But currently, more than 20,000 National Guard troops are deployed overseas. There's a new effort underway to bring many of these troops home. 16 states are now writing laws to keep our National Guard troops at home instead of sending them to fight foreign wars. Sergeant Dan McKnight has been traveling the country pushing this legislation. He's a retired Marine sergeant, and Dan McKnight joins us now. Dan, thank you so much for being with us. Tell me about this. The National Guard is, at least in part, under the oversight of state governors. What can be done on this Defend Our Guard initiative that has now at least been introduced in, I think, what is it, 16 states, and perhaps passed, is it one or two, Montana and soon to be perhaps Arizona?
That's correct. Arizona Senate passed it through committee, and it's probably going to pass the floor on Monday. But the Defend the Guard bill essentially says that the National Guard cannot be deployed under federal service into foreign combat unless Congress has first done their job and declare war. That's something Congress hasn't done in 80 years. And we found ourselves in a state of perpetual and endless war ever since World War II. It's time for Congress to kind of reclaim their authority under the Constitution. That's our authority that we've given to Congress, and properly declare war. If it's important enough for us to send the lives of Americans and the treasure of American taxpayers into a foreign land for combat, then Congress should do the right thing, and they should debate it and declare it and put their name on the line before our soldiers ever put their boots on the ground.
Such a great point. There was a time when it was expected that Congress would declare a war before we went to war. But if this did pass, and so, for example, it has in Montana, so we can use Montana as our example, give me the mechanics of then what unfolds if, in fact, a state passes the Defend Our Guard law. Is it that the state governor of, for example, again, Montana says no to the President of the United States or to Congress, not until you declare war?
You know, that's a great point. That's a great question. There is no mission that the National Guard participates in, whether it's a domestic service, domestic defense, or an emergency response mission, or even a foreign mission, foreign training, or operational missions that are non-combat related. Not a single mission that the National Guard participates in will be affected by Defend the Guard. The only thing that would be affected is the use of the National Guard in a foreign war of choice waged by the President of the United States with no authority from Congress. That's the only thing that the National Guard would be limited on. So it would be the governor standing up and usurping his right as the executive of the state to withhold the troops from combat that has not been declared.
So Dan, before we run, I want to ask you this. I would imagine that were somebody sitting here taking you on in a debate, they would bring up the authorization for use of military force passed after 9/11. It seems to be an open-ended, rolling authorization from Congress to pursue terrorism and make war. What would be your response to the AUMF and its role here when it comes to Defend Our Guard?
Yes, the AUMF has been the mechanism that we've used for decades, and it is not a declaration of war. What an AUMF is Congress abdicating their authority. They're giving the president a blank check, a permission slip, to make a decision whether to go to war or not, and then they agree that if he goes to war, then they'll just continue to write checks with no oversight, no geographical restrictions, no plan, no definition of victory, and no way to bring the troops home in a short period of time. The AUMF is not a declaration of war, and it should never be used. So the Defend the Guard bill would put that authority back on Congress, that responsibility back on Congress, to reclaim that from the executive branch and realign the powers that we granted to them in the Constitution.
What a great way to say it. Great way to reinforce and highlight the point of our Constitution, the powers that we granted to them that once we thought were obvious, that Congress had to declare war before committing us to war. Sergeant Dan McKnight, thank you so much for being with us.
You bet. Please visit defendtheguard.us and click on Arizona and sign the petition and help us get this across the finish line on Monday.
There you go. It's coming to a vote in Arizona. Thank you.